Procurement Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe is a statutory body or the watchdog of public procurement within the nation of Zimbabwe, with a mandate to oversee and regulate, number one, public procurement and the disposal of public assets within the good nation of Zimbabwe. Of course, all of this is done to ensure that there is accountability and transparency within this particular sector. Hello, I'm PJ Nagol and we are broadcasting to you from the 2025 Zimbabwe International Trade Fair exhibition, which is running under the theme for the institution of Praz, Sustainable Procurement. To understand this and more, I'm joined by Benson Share, who is the Director for Operations. Director, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, PJ.
Now, I want us to speak about procurement, but rather sustainable procurement, which is the theme you've brought to Bulawayo this year. Let's start there. What does sustainable procurement mean to an institution like Praz?
Thank you, PJ. Sustainable procurement, basically we are talking of what we call green procurement. It is the process whereby environmental, social, and governance criteria are incorporated in procurement processes. Mm-hmm. By this we are saying procuring entities as well as Praz are encouraged to consider long-term effects of their procurement decisions on the environment as well as on the social aspects. Mm. By that we are also saying that when you are doing your procurement, have you considered maybe employment of the local community, employment of the youth, employment of the marginalized members of our society. Then also on the procurement side of goods and other services, we are also saying, are we considering the effects on the environment of whatever we are procuring?
Okay.
Yes. So like for Praz, what we are saying, if you look at our 2025 procurement plan, you will find that we are focusing on trying to reduce the carbon emissions, and by doing so, we are saying let's try to buy electric vehicles which reduce the emission into our environment. And also you also realize that we are embarking on the construction of our head office. And on that note, we have also considered the green environment effects on our procurement plan, on our plan for the head office, to ensure that it should be a building that considers the environment as well as the social aspects. Thank you.
Now, you speak about the what, which is sustainable procurement, but the issue with most institutions in Zimbabwe has become that there's a lot of talk but little action, rather an action plan to ensure that how we're going to achieve this. What are some of the measures you've put in place? What are some of the policies and strategies that you've put in place as Praz to ensure that there actually is sustainable procurement?
Thank you. On the legal framework, we have got our PPDB Act. You will find out that Section 7 of our Act, rather Section 6, one of the functions of Praz is to ensure that we advise government on ways on which economic, sustainable, and social policies are achieved through public procurement. Then to add on a little bit, apart from Praz, we have got other stakeholders which are also involved in sustainable practices. We've got the environmental management agents, and we also have the Minister of Labor on the employment aspect. So on the police framework or the legal framework, I would say we are covered in that space. But however, having said that, you will then find out that there is need for an entity which will then champion to ensure that this dream is realized. That's where Praz plays a major role. And how we have done that, we've decided to approach it in a smart manner. What Praz has done is to say, let's engage Standard Association of Zimbabwe, because they are the ones who have developed a standard for sustainable procurement. So Praz has already been trained in terms of sustainable procurement standard as well as the auditing of it. Now we are in the process of implementing it internally to Praz. Having said that, also at policy level, we have also engaged a consultant which was funded by our development partners, who will then produce the guidelines which will then cascade to all procuring entities. Those are the ones that they should be following when they are then conducting their procurement practices. Thank you.
Director, let's give this scenario. PJ is a procurement entity. There is a tender that is out, say, for the Ministry of Justice for a particular thing that they need. In line with sustainable procurement, what are some of the criteria aspects I should meet as a procurement entity to ensure that you realize your dream of sustainable procurement?
Thank you. You will find out that last year, His Excellency gave an instruction to say all procuring entities, when they are conducting their procurement processes, they should ensure that we incorporate sustainable procurement practices in the bidding documents. So by so doing, what Praz is done, we have issued circulars to all procuring entities to ensure that their standard bidding documents or invitation tender documents, they incorporate the employment of, say, graduate trainees, interns from our tertiary institutions. They are incorporated in any procurement process. And in the evaluation criteria would actually be considering those factors. If, say, we are giving a tender to an international supplier or a contractor,
Yes.
then we also have to take measures to say how our local people are being incorporated in the procurement policy. Those are some of the things that we have done. Then also you will then find out that there are certain procurement processes that are by nature, they've got a damaging effect on the environment. So what we have done, we do partner with EMA, and how we do that, some procurement process, they have also an evaluation criteria whereby there should be an environmental impact assessment. Such that if that is not there, then that bid is then what? Disqualified. So on that front, that is what we are pushing for as a regulator.
Lastly, I want us to close with this. In my introduction, I touched on the issue of accountability and transparency. Two key issues that we cannot leave out when we talk about procurement, public procurement rather, which is at the interest of the taxpayer. How do you as an institution come in to ensure that whatever is happening from an operations point of view, there is accountability and there's transparency?
Thank you. From the regulator's point of view, we've taken a four-pronged approach to the issue of transparency and accountability. First of all, I'm sure you are aware that the regulator has introduced the electronic government procurement system, which is what we call the EGP. By the EGP system, we are talking that they were saying that there's transparency in that from the advertisement of a tender up to its award, everything is done online. We have reduced the human element on a procurement process, so that PEs, bidders can monitor what is actually happening. Not only those PEs and bidders, even the public who are interested in monitoring our procurement processes, they can also check on online to see what exactly is happening, what has become the result of this particular tender. And by its nature also, the EGP system guarantees accountability, because whoever participates in the system, they are identified by the system to say who did what on this particular procurement process. Thereby we're enhancing what? Accountability. Then apart from that, to ensure that there's transparency and accountability, we have also review mechanisms in public procurement, especially on high value procurement contracts as well as sensitive procurement contracts, whereby there's what is called the Special Procurement Oversight Committee, which the PE, after having done its procurement process, they submit for further review by that independent committee, which is chaired by the Attorney General and the Accountant General, as well as the Chief Director and the Minister of Public Works and then other invited members.
Yes.
They then review this process to say, is there transparency, is there accountability in this particular procurement process? Because the idea there is to say, before we award, let's ensure that we've closed all the gaps, we've closed all the loopholes, that say that our procurement awards within the system stand the test of time and can also withstand public scrutiny. Then thirdly, to enhance transparency and accountability, we have got also our capacity building unit within the authority, which focuses to say the idea is not just to punish everyone, but let's build people to ensure that they conduct procurement in a more transparent and accountable manner. So our capacity building department is there, and they train all the procuring entities. And we don't train procuring entities only, we also go as far as the board members and the ministers and everything, so that everyone is aware of what is expected of them in a procurement process. Then last but not least, we also have our monitoring and evaluation division, which is again within Praz. The idea is, yes, there are some procurement processes that are brought to the regulator for further submission, the Special Procurement Oversight Committee, but there are certain procurement because of their thresholds, they fall under the jurisdiction of the accounting officer of the procuring entities in terms of conclusion. But now those ones, our M&E will be on the ground to check whether everything is being done above board. And they are also there to take some complaints that may be raised by the public as well as the bidding community, or anyone who ever feels that they've been prejudiced in the procurement process. They check to see whether everything is being done above board. They check on the advertisement, they check, they monitor the reports and everything to ensure that procurement is done in a manner that achieves the objectives of our act, which are transparent, accountability, value for money, etc. Thank you, PJ.
Director, thank you so much for speaking to us. Benson Shari, the Director for Operations at the Procurement Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe. The idea, he says, is not to punish anyone, but to build people who contribute towards sustainable procurement, which is the theme Praz has brought to this year's edition of ZITF. I'm PJ Nagoli, broadcasting to you, of course, from the city of Kings and Queens. Goodbye.